would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, the Gundungurra land and people. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I also want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which you, our listeners, are joining us from today. I recognise the deep connection that First Nations people have to this land, their enduring culture, and their commitment to the preservation and care for their country. This land was never ceded, and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hey there, and welcome to Beyond the Surface, the podcast where we explore the stories of people who have survived religious trauma, left high control or cult communities, and are deconstructing their faith. I'm your host, Sam, and each week I'll talk with individuals who have taken the brave step to start shifting their beliefs that might have once controlled and defined their lives. Join us as we dig into their experiences, the challenges they've faced, and the insights they've gained. Whether you're on a similar journey or you're just curious about these powerful stories, you're in the right place. This is Beyond the Surface. Welcome, Grace. Thanks for joining me.
Hello, nice to see you.
It is so lovely to have you on. Where in the world are you for people who don't know you?
I'm in Aotearoa, New Zealand,
Beautiful.
in the South Island.
Beautiful. I've not
Yeah.
been to New Zealand. It's on my bucket list. I always wanted to go over there. I'm hoping to be over there next year for the Decult conference, actually. So,
Oh, where
yeah,
where is that going to
I
be?
think it's in Christchurch. Yeah.
Oh, I should go because I'm sort of near Christchurch.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's on the list for sure. It's a beautiful country. So
it is actually.
yeah. And I know that people will soon find out that it is not your home country, but let's kick off with the super vague question that I always like to start with, which is where does your story start?
My story starts in the UK.
Hmm.
So I was born in England, in Cambridge, but I lived in Hertfordshire, which is kind of a district. It's about an hour away from London, a little bit further than an hour.
Hmm.
And I grew up in church my whole life. Since I was a baby, my mum was probably singing on the worship team when I was in her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always grown up around church, and my parents moved us over to New Zealand in 2008.
Hmm.
So I was 13. So I was quite young, but I do remember my childhood better than my younger sibling does.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so what flavor of religion did we grow up in?
I grew up in Calvinistic Baptist church.
Yikes.
Yep. Yeah. So I was mostly within like Calvinism
Mm,
all of my childhood until I left my parents' church when I was, I think, 15 or 16.
yeah.
I think I was 15. And then I went into like a Pentecostal Assemblies of God church.
Yep. It's the typical
I,
trajectory, hey, for most
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm not original at all.
yeah.
I think my parents, though, I will say, have always been like Pentecostal.
Okay.
In the sense that they speak in tongues
Yeah.
and they believe in like casting out demons and laying hands on the sick, that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
would say that they're not very reformed.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking like that's not a super Calvinistic or Baptist sort of perspective. Actually, I'm gonna ask this question because the word, even just like the Baptist flavor
Yeah.
is so broad and so different. I talk to the people in the US around who are Southern Baptists, and it's just like ultra conservative. In Australia, Baptist can mean ultra conservative or super progressive, depending on where
Ah,
you land. And so, what was the Baptist church or the Baptist belief system in the UK?
again, I was a child,
Yeah.
so quite hard for me to specify in terms
Yeah.
of like the full belief system, but
Mm.
we definitely believed in tulip,
Okay.
which is a Calvinistic thing. Um, don't ask me to remember exactly what it means.
Yeah.
I could look it up, but it's sort of like very grounded in like your depravity
Yeah.
as a human being and sort of essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but you're nothing without God,
Hmm.
and you need total redemption and like grace.
Yeah.
And that's literally where my name comes from. Like my parents called me Grace because of God's grace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have an interesting relationship with
I
my
was
name.
about to say, how do we feel about your name now?
When I was a child, I really wanted to change my name.
Yeah.
Um, and I still dabble with it every so often because I don't identify with it. But at the same time, it's the name that my partner knows me as, it's the name my best friends know me as. And so I guess I sort of want to reclaim it, but it is still a kind of interesting thing for me.
Yeah, I think even as as I've interviewed people over like the last 18 months or so, grace is one of the words and the terminology that has been the hardest for people to reclaim or shift or make different or something. Like I still use it and I go, oh, like I haven't found a better word yet than
No,
grace. It's hard.
it's kind of one of those words that doesn't have many like synonyms,
Yeah.
I guess is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
No.
what was it like as a child growing up in that space where, we hate the idea that children are told anything other than they are like beautiful and good and wholesome and whole and worthy, and yet you are being told the opposite. And so, what do you remember about what that was like?
Um, I definitely have a lot of memories of being told that I'm broken
Yeah,
a lot, and being unredeemable. And my family was very focused on we're nothing without God.
yeah,
And that, I guess, has been hard for my self-esteem throughout my life because it was so ingrained in me.
yeah,
And yeah, I think that was one of the most deep things that has sat with me.
yeah.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just sort of thinking like about what you remember the impact of being told that you were broken and that that I guess that concept and doctrine of original sin where we are nothing without grace.
Yeah, yeah.
And in my head I'm like I'm gonna spend the next 45 minutes doing that, I feel like.
That's fine. I've been the butt of so many Grace jokes and being told, oh, you have to say Grace at the dinner table because your name is Grace.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
that
heard
would
all
be
of the jokes.
frustrating though, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. I got used to it.
Mm,
I was a pretty outgoing kid, so it wasn't
yeah.
too bad.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it has been something that is still hard to think about, and
Yeah.
it's one of the things that makes me the angriest
Mm,
about the faith is the teaching of being inherently broken.
yeah.
And I just think in terms of identity formation, it's very damaging and hard to deconstruct.
Absolutely. I'm
Mm.
assuming if it was heavy on original sin and total depravity, was it also heavy on like hell?
No,
Oh.
I was in a bit of an interesting place.
Mm.
My church and my family didn't really focus so much on hell as like the Dante's Inferno, the flames and the eternal suffering.
Mm.
I was always taught hell was total deprivation from God.
Okay.
And so if you are in hell, it means that you're always away from him and those you love.
Right.
So no, I have a bit of a unique experience with the hell thing because
Yeah.
I thankfully never really grew up fearing it
Mm.
as this entity of its own
Yeah.
personally, but
Mm.
I know that others haven't been so lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even sort of thinking just the idea of even without all of the hellfire and brimstone imagery, even just the idea for particularly for a child of eternal separation from God and everybody that you love is still just a fear-based concept and something that as a child you just can't comprehend as well. Like,
No.
yeah.
And I also, and this is a slightly unrelated thing, but I didn't know anyone who died until I was quite a lot older. And
Ah,
so my grandparents have only just died,
yeah.
like last year. So I was in this place of sort of it wasn't real.
Yeah.
Like I was young, I was a child, and the idea of people being completely separated from me, like those I love, wasn't real yet.
Right.
And I have to say, like the first person I knew who died was a young person,
Oh,
and so I like one of my friends, and so I think that that was a real catalyst in me breaking apart my faith, admittedly. But
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, going back to
Mm.
what you were saying, it didn't really hit me until later.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, did that almost make it easier to deal with that concept of eternal separation because you weren't faced with the reality of death until a bit later in age?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would say that because I was brought up with it like from such a young age, I
yeah,
just didn't know any better.
yeah.
I'll be honest with you. And I was homeschooled my entire life.
Ah,
So despite my desires to go to school, I was homeschooled, and so I literally just had what my parents were telling me
mm,
and what other families were telling me, and I grew up with all other Christian homeschoolers.
yeah,
And like I was at church multiple times a week
mm,
for all of my life because my parents were on the worship team and my dad ran one of the like Sunday schools,
mhm,
and I was at prayer meetings. So I was at church like 3 or 4 times a week
yeah,
from as long as I remember. Yeah,
yeah,
so I didn't really have a chance to form any individual
yeah.
thought for a long time.
Yeah, from like a church perspective, but also from like a socializing school perspective, which is usually where people are able to make differing connections. But if you are homeschooled, you don't get that opportunity. How do you look back on being homeschooled? Obviously, it's all you know, but is it like something that can see the benefit in? Do you absolutely fucking hate it? Like, how do you feel about it?
Uh, Both.
Okay.
Depends on the day. I think I am really thankful to my parents for homeschooling me in some aspects.
Mm.
I have dyscalculia, which is dyslexia with numbers.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so in some aspects, I would have been better at school and they could have diagnosed me.
Yeah.
But in some aspects as well, I was able to be slow
Yeah.
at that, despite my poor mum having to try desperately to teach me. Um, but yeah, I think I'm thankful mostly for my like building who I am
Mm.
was a lot easier without too much external influence.
Yeah.
I was allowed to be a kid. I was allowed to explore what I'm interested in and have be a little weird, to be honest with you. I've always been a big nerd. And so I think, I guess I was definitely bullied when I was in places where there were other kids,
Yeah.
but it wasn't as bad as it probably would have been in school.
Mm.
So I think I'm thankful in some ways for it, but in other ways, I wish I'd gone to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly because my mum's not a teacher and that is not her fault. And I hold no grudge against her
Yeah.
at all. She really did a great job. I could read very young, so
Mm.
that was I think good. But yeah, I think there's just certain subjects that in later life
Mm.
I've needed and I've had to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think complicated.
Yeah. I think also having that complicated or like nuanced perspective on things is what we need,
Mm,
particularly if we are post-church or we no longer identify with the faith that we were raised with. It's that nuance allows us to hold the things that actually we might have loved or benefited from that we've taken with us and still hold the shit show from the other stuff as well. Like, it very rarely is anything all good or all bad. So,
no, no, because I think the biggest thing is that I was brought up in young earth creationism.
okay.
And so, and to this day, my parents do believe that.
Yeah.
However, my path has been science
Mm,
as an adult, and the subjects I'm the most interested in have been science. I'm currently studying health science.
ah,
And so I think that has been really hard to have to learn
Yeah.
so much that I was told was wrong.
Yeah.
And now I am learning it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the biggest complaint I honestly have about homeschooling, was that it's just made my adult life harder.
Yeah.
But in other ways, no.
Yeah. What about the socialization aspect and that Christian bubble that you would have been in and not necessarily being able to interact with more diverse types of people? What do you remember about that?
So when I was younger, like in England,
Mm.
I was the only girl in
Oh,
the homeschool group. So that had its own interesting
yeah.
developments. I did have some female friends from sorry, I shouldn't say female,
Yeah.
girlfriends from church.
Yeah.
So I had a couple girlfriends, but yeah, mostly all boys that I grew up with, and I only have a brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely when I became a teenager and we were moving here, I had the best group of friends who I'm still friends with 90% of them.
Mm.
And we were all Christians, like we were all going to the same church or adjacent churches, and we lived in a really small town. And so I think, in a way, I'm kind of glad that I was at church because I had this network. And even though I was homeschooled, I still got to see these people, you know, at youth group and at church and youth camp and multiple times a week, let's be real, hanging out after school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I often get questions actually when I tell people that I'm homeschooled, like, oh, well, how were you socialized?
Yeah.
And I think I could have been socialized better. But I think like I'm glad I had the friends I had. I kind of got a magic in the bottle moment,
Yeah.
of just having all the right factors.
Mm.
But yeah, so social life was good, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it did mean that like my teenage years were not drug and sex filled.
Mm.
Or those sort of things. We were always very conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What took your family to New Zealand?
This is well, my parents kind of thought, in England at the time, that was obviously when the recession was happening.
Mm.
They was the 2008 recession. They kind of thought my kids won't be able to afford property here.
Mm.
Jokes on them. Still can't afford property. But I
Yeah.
respect that they tried to help us. So yeah, they moved because they wanted us to have a better future.
Right.
And this is me talking for them. They're a little racist, I guess, and didn't like the fact that England is quite multicultural.
Yeah.
Despite having our church was actually like a split like nationality church. So
Oh.
we had half Chinese people
Yep.
and half English European.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, it's a bit complicated,
Mm.
that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a little bit of racism, but mostly just wanting to give us a better life.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of thinking like half of like the good portion of New Zealand that are like Maori people is like, it's not really playing into their like all white card. Like,
No,
yeah. But
no,
anyway,
no, no. I don't think, oh, and I think New Zealand also, we did look at Australia, but my
mhm.
mum said there's snakes and spiders and all manner of nasty things there, and
I
it's
mean,
too hot.
yeah, she's not wrong, to be
No.
honest.
And I hate hot weather, so I'm so glad my mum stood up for that and was like, no way.
Yeah.
But I think the final thing was like where we actually moved to
Mm.
was that the pastor we had, who was the Chinese pastor, we had two pastors. He prayed for our family, and he said that he like prayed for where we would go in New Zealand, and he just sort of pointed to a place, and that is where we moved to.
Mm. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was how the decision was made.
It's like, how do you feel about how that decision was made looking back on it?
I'm not surprised. I think they were just trying to like,
Uh,
I see what they were thinking. They were
yeah.
thinking we're consulting with a man of God who's interceding for us,
Yeah.
and this is where God wants us to be. I think they did it out of what they thought was right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny. Like people always ask us, "Oh, did you go to New Zealand before you moved there?" And they're like, "No, we just blind bought it and went
Yeah.
there."
Yeah, I mean, you're like trusting God in that process, of
Yeah.
course. So, and did you say that once you're in New Zealand, was that when you went into a Pentecostal space?
Um,
That a bit later.
it's a little later.
Right,
So we first went into a Reformed Baptist church.
right, okay.
Um, Lovely people,
Mm.
the most boring services you've ever been to. It was just like, and even my dad was like, this is so boring.
Right.
Because like they only had a piano player and like would sing hymns, and my dad was like,
Oh,
let's just get some electric guitar going, or let's get something going.
oh boy.
um but like, yeah, no, lovely people, just I do not like their beliefs now, but
Yeah.
they were nice people. But then yeah, then we moved to a different city, and a smaller city, and they now go to a Presbyterian church, my
And that
family.
is less boring? I was like,
It's still similar, like they have an organ, but yeah, like
yeah,
they do play, like they have multiple pianists and they have
yeah.
guitarists and that sort of thing, and sometimes a pan,
Oh,
which slays, to be honest with you.
right. Yeah.
Like you know, the like Peter Pan, where you like
Oh,
it's like shaped
yeah.
in a triangle, and you I'm
Oh,
not gonna pretend to make the
yeah.
noise. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes
can't
we have
believe you went
panpipes.
to a Pentecostal church, Grace. My goodness.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
was one down
like
the road.
for everything that they do wrong, they do music right, usually. So it's what draws people in, is it's exciting. But the reason I asked is more to sort of go like, what was coming at you during that sort of like 13 to 18 years where like it's our biggest identity forming period. It's when hormones run wild. It's where like sex comes into it and relationships and all of that sort of thing. And for most people that I talk to, um, the really, really harmful purity culture ideology usually hits in that window of time. So, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I would say that purity culture hit for me younger than that.
Yeah.
I did, it's interesting you say 13 to 18.
Mm.
13 was when my dad sat me down and said, I want to get you a purity ring. And I was like, I knew what purity was because it had come up. But he gave me this whole talk about, I want you to stay pure for your like future husband. And I'd heard all of this before, but now it was kind of like, you're actually at the age where I need to, he was thinking, I need to actually get this set in stone that you're not going to do this. And so he was like, I want you to go online and find a purity ring. And so I was just like, I'm so excited I get this pretty ring. Um, um, but like, to be honest, I guess at that age, I hadn't had proper sex education,
Oh,
and it was just going along with what I knew
mm,
and what they taught me. And it was kind of like, yeah, okay, this is happening.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, I definitely, purity culture was sort of subtly introduced younger than that. Like my family is complementarian,
Mm,
if you know what that means. So like my mum hasn't worked since she had us,
hmm
which I feel bad about, to be honest, because she had a really cool career. And I won't say anything because it's not my story to tell. But yeah, I think she always says that she feels fine about it,
mm,
but I do wonder how much choice she had.
yeah.
And in terms of having to educate us.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I grew up with my mum being at home all the time and my dad going out to work. And I was very much taught like a woman's place is to serve her husband, service her husband,
hmm
and all of that stuff, like gender roles piled onto me from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I was never feminine enough. As I said, I grew up with all boyfriends mostly, like guy mates, and I was very much like a tomboy. Don't really know if we use that phrase anymore, but yeah, I was never particularly like typically girly.
Yeah.
But I guess it did hurt me deep down, I think, knowing that I wasn't fitting this thing. But when I was young, it was sort of like tomorrow's problem.
Yeah.
I was too interested in my Barbies and playing in the mud and playing with my pets. It wasn't really anything. But yeah, I would say, yeah, the purity culture more so hit when I was a teenager. So
Yeah.
probably from, I think, probably the age of like 15 was when it really hit for me.
Yeah.
Um, like, so I went to two different youth groups.
Mm.
So my parents ran the youth group for their church.
Yeah.
And then I also went to the youth group of the church that I was in,
Mm.
which was the Pentecostal church.
Right.
So yeah, I was getting these messages from different people with slightly different theology,
Yeah.
but kind of the message was similar. And I actually like rang one of my friends who was in the trenches with me at the time, and I said to her like, "Is there anything you remember specifically?" And yeah, we just sort of talked about the purity culture stuff we went through, and a lot of it was the typical stuff of the power women's bodies have and
Mm-hmm.
not causing others to stumble.
Yeah.
Just weird things about, if you luxury cars don't show off their assets, whereas cheap cars do. And so
Ooh,
you don't want to be a
I've
cheap
not
car.
heard that one.
No, I know. She reminded me of that, and I was like, girl, that was deep in there. I don't remember
Oh,
that. But yeah, that's a new one. So not wanting to do that. And a lot of talk about not being unequally yoked with a
yeah.
partner. That was really driven home to me. Um, yeah, lots of stuff, to be honest,
Mm.
about staying pure.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time when I talk about purity culture with people, I think so many people forget, and this is online but also in person, people forget that it's not just about don't have sex before marriage and the purity culture myth that once you do get married, sex will be just this most divine, perfect thing. But like you've already mentioned, there's no sex education. You don't get taught about consent. Purity culture goes alongside of diet culture and rape culture. Like the three are almost synonymous with one another. Um, and so and also there is no conversation or it is negative conversation around sexuality as well.
Mm.
And so, there's just all of these nuanced aspects that don't get talked about a lot in terms of purity culture. How did some of
Mm.
those things impact you, particularly, I guess, around not necessarily having an adequate or any sex education or consent conversations?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't taught about consent at all.
Yeah.
I I think I wasn't taught about marital rape even,
Yeah.
because I was definitely taught that a wife needs to sleep with her husband
Yeah.
when he requires it.
Mm.
But it was never talked about like if she's asleep, he shouldn't do that, or little
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And I won't go into it because I don't want to like bring up too much for listeners, but I have had unconsensual experiences when I was a child.
Yeah.
And I told my parents about that like 3 years ago because I was so ashamed about it for a long time once I figured it out.
Yeah.
So, because it happened when I was young, at the time, I didn't know what was going on because I had had no sex ed properly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was only when I kind of got to about 16 that I was like, why, when I think of that, do I feel like throwing up?
Oh,
And all of these experiences, or like, I wouldn't say I've had the worst experience compared to some people I've known, but I would say it definitely haunted me for a long time. And I've healed a lot from that. But there was shame around it
yeah.
that took a long time. Um, yeah, but mostly I think not being taught about consent was hard.
Yeah.
But I think the also compulsive heterosexuality is
Hmm.
hard. But it's interesting because my parents, it was always talk about your husband, your husband, your husband.
Mm.
But I never really showed any interest in people. And my parents like sat me down one day and were like, are you gay? Like, are you a
Oh,
lesbian? Because I guess like I was really close to my girlfriends. Like we did hug a lot and have sleepovers all the time, like most
Yeah.
teenage girls do. But yeah, like oddly, I was like, oh no, I'm not, like kind of thing. Like at the time, I was raised to think that that was wrong.
Yeah.
Um, but they didn't seem bothered. Let's put it that way. I
Yeah.
don't know what they would have said if I'd have said yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they did ask me that, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is because it's opening the door to a conversation that even if you had the ability to say yes at the time, the safety to to actually say that word is not usually inherently there in that location. Um,
No,
I also wanted to say on your previous thing, we are not in the Trauma Olympics,
no,
and your story is valid and real, and it doesn't need to, sit in a hierarchy in comparison to anybody else. Um, but I am so thankful for you that you were able to realize that and be able to do some healing,
yeah,
for yourself as well.
yeah.
Which is
No, I appreciate that. It's probably my not processing that in the correct way
No,
of
I think it's
feeling like it's
just,
not valid.
yeah, I think it's just it's not easy when we hear other people's stories as well. We automatically, as humans, go, oh, well, yeah, my mum, and it wasn't that bad. And Australia and New Zealand are really good at that sort of like stiff upper lip, stoic
Yeah.
um perspective as well. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's far easier. I also think the church does that really well, I think, in terms of like other people's situations and things like that are far worse than ours. And so we get stuck in comparison culture as well.
Oh, yeah. My mum said many times when
Yeah.
I didn't want to eat something, what about the starving children in Africa? I'm
Oh,
sure we've all heard that
yes.
lovely phrase.
Yeah, my dad used to say something similar, except he would say like, a Kampuchean would kill for that, and I would be like, as like a kid, I'd be like, I don't know what that fucking means.
Yeah. I
Um,
what who
like
is that a
it's,
people group in Australia?
I think it's just that like people who, like you said, who don't have food like when you are being picky, so to speak. Yeah, it just is like, oh my goodness, that it's just that comparison culture, but
Yeah, for sure.
where yours doesn't matter as much as someone else's. But it
No.
definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how did mum and dad asking you that, did it take you back? Like, were you like, oh, like, where is this coming from? Or did it seem like it had some validity to it?
Yeah, like I think so I haven't actually brought this up yet, but you know this because of
Yes.
talking with me before, but I am on the asexual spectrum.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that until I was almost 20 years old.
Hmm.
And so I think I didn't know that that was why I wasn't expressing like sexual desires towards boys or girls.
Yeah.
And so I think it was more that I was just a little, I don't know, it was affronting
Yeah.
that they brought it up, to be honest with you. And I think because I couldn't even say, oh, no, 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 like I like this boy, you know,
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything to say. And I think, like looking back, I very much went along
Mm.
with the liking boys thing. Like I definitely had crushes on guy friends,
Yeah.
but realistically, there was no sexual aspect to that.
Yeah.
It was just liking them as a person and wanting to be around them.
Mm.
And just like the hormones are still there, even if
Mm.
everyone's experience as an asexual is different.
Yeah.
So I can only speak from my experience on that. But yeah, I definitely still had crushes, but yeah, it wasn't sexual. Sorry, did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I want to get to potentially like exploring what, because I know from reading your little bio that you identify as both asexual and demisexual. And so
Yeah,
I want to get to both of those terms because I guarantee that there are going to be people listening who don't know what they mean.
that's fair.
I'm going to go down the path of like this, we're not going to necessarily like Oxford dictionary define, but we're going to define as to what those terms mean for you, because obviously, like you just said, everything is very unique and personal. But I
Yeah.
want to ask first, whilst you were during that teenage years and you're not experiencing those desires that other people are potentially suggesting that are normal, that you
Hmm.
potentially should be, did you feel like something was wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, it was interesting going through purity culture as someone that is not experiencing sexual desire for other people,
Yeah.
um, kind of feeling like I'm so good at this. Like,
Yes.
you're all actually struggling with wanting to have sex with other people because I'm not.
Yeah.
So there was definitely a feeling of like I'm better than other people,
Yeah.
but not really knowing why. Because
Yeah.
again, I didn't have any of the language. I wasn't educated about that. Um, no, yeah, it was interesting having that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I joke that being attracted to all genders meant that I could just suppress one and pick up the other, and it just made me like extra good at purity culture. Um,
Mm.
but you're like in a different level. Like that's like top tier, like purity culture peakness of being able to just like skate through. But the flip side of that is that you are surrounded by people saying that you almost should be struggling with these things at this time, and yet I'm not. And so, like, what is that? Like, is there something wrong, or am I just really good at this? Or, I would imagine that would have been really confusing.
Yeah, it was. I think that I did have moments where I was like, well, maybe I'm just not interested in boys.
Yep.
Like maybe I am interested in women or non-binary people, although I
Yeah.
didn't know what that was at the time. Yeah, I think I was maybe thinking maybe I was interested in like other women, but I think mostly it wasn't so much there's something wrong with me, it was the ticking time bomb of I will marry a man and I will have to have sex with them.
Yes.
And that scared me so much.
Mm.
I'm not a sex repulsed asexual person, but
Mhm.
I would say when I was younger I was,
Yeah.
I would say. And I guess it was quite scary knowing that eventually I would have to live that life and
Yeah.
I'd have to be someone's wife.
Yeah.
Um, and having never experienced it at the time, like sexual attraction at the time, it was really scary as opposed to fully feeling like something was wrong with me.
Mm.
I guess I felt like something was wrong with me not wanting that,
Mm.
or not at the time not wanting that.
Yeah.
Um, but it definitely came a bit later,
Yeah.
in terms of actually understanding my sexuality,
Mm.
helped me kind of tackle those things a little bit better.
Yeah.
But at the time, I also had no one to talk about it with.
Mm.
So I honestly just went along with it. Like I would talk about celebrity crushes with my girlfriends and stuff. I just kind of didn't acknowledge it for a long time,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you. But it was more so feeling like it's going to happen to me sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you getting like you already sort of alluded to the fact that you were in an environment where, queerness was not a good thing in any way.
Mm.
And was that just sort of like baked into the culture, or was that being like preached, like very prominent messages against anything not heterosexuality?
It wasn't as bad as I know it is in some places.
Okay.
It was kind of not talked about
Yeah.
too much.
Just assumed
Um,
knowledge.
yeah, assumed like everyone is heterosexual and we don't have to talk about this. But I mean, there was the odd talk at youth group a
Yeah.
little bit about it's okay if you have those feelings towards your same sex. Um, you're still loved and it was the whole like love the sinner, hate the sin thing.
Yeah.
That was kind of their approach.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, I obviously think that's hateful, but
Yeah.
it wasn't in the outright hateful, they're going to hell sort of thing. Um, yeah, that was kind of the way it was talked about. Like parents have gay friends,
Yeah.
but it was never affirming. Let's put it that way. It was kind of like they are that way.
Right.
And like I grew up like two of my mum's favorite artists are Elton John and Queen, and obviously like Freddie Mercury,
Shit.
icon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was around quite a bit of like queer culture in some ways. Like there was definitely old TV shows that had very kind of like stereotypical gay men in them. And my mum thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
And I don't think it was really ever laughing at their sexuality. She just enjoyed their like stereotypical behavior.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it wasn't talked about too much, but it wasn't affirmed, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like it's in the sphere of like not repulsion, like some people obviously have that perspective, but almost like tolerating, seeing it as a lifestyle, using all of those microaggression type spaces where people say things, but they don't necessarily realize that the undertone of that is actually really harmful and really awful.
No.
But on the surface, it looks quote unquote okay. It doesn't look like complete overt hatred, which sometimes that subtlety is harder to spot and can also
Yeah.
be really, really damaging, but people just don't realize it at the time.
Yeah, like I think the only time that I remember really coming up was when in New Zealand we had the vote to make gay marriage legal.
Yeah.
I think it was 2013. I could be wrong about that. It was somewhere around there, early 2010s. And I was old enough to vote on it.
Yeah.
And I think my parents sort of said, well, are you going to vote for it? And I was like, oh, well, I don't really see why they shouldn't. Again, at this time,
Yeah.
I was not taught they're going to hell, but I wasn't really taught that it was right.
Yeah.
I was definitely taught marriages between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
But we don't hate them.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I made the decision to vote for it.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, yay, little me. But at the
Yeah.
same time, they kind of disapproved of that, but they were also like, it's your choice.
Right. Okay.
Which is
That's
like,
pretty,
that's true.
yeah,
Nice.
I mean, that's some pretty good like autonomy that most would not necessarily get in that sort of environment as well, to sort of allow you to have that choice in that space.
They
Yeah.
weren't particularly happy with me, but
Yeah.
it was what it is. Yeah. But that was honestly the most that the discussion really ever came up, at least in my family, to be honest.
Yeah. So, fast forward to like being 20, how did the conversation or the realization, and even just the knowledge that asexuality exists, how was that experience for you?
Long.
Yeah.
It was a long and slow experience.
Yeah.
So I only realized that other people felt the same way as I did because my best friend and I both experienced it. So it was kind of, we would talk about, like, I just don't know how people can have one night stands,
Yeah.
for example. And again, I have no problem with other people doing
Yeah.
that. I still couldn't do that personally, but I don't shame people for doing that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely had conversations about how people can sleep with people they haven't known for years, or have any sort of physical contact with people that they have just met. I think that was sort of some of the starting conversations that we had, and we were both like, yeah, man, I don't know how people do that. It almost feels wrong. Again, this is what we were sort of saying.
Yeah.
And I think we just talked about that every time that sort of thing came up.
Yeah.
And then I saw the word demisexual online, I think on like Tumblr maybe, or Twitter.
Oh, good on Tumblr.
Yeah, I was a big Tumblr kid, but I think I heard the phrase demisexual and I was like, oh wait, there's a name for what I'm feeling. That's really cool. And so I then told her about it and we were like, oh wow. And then we would look into it more.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's other people that feel this way.
Yeah.
And then just exploring how that actually looked in our lives and as we've grown up,
Mm.
getting to know it more, and definitely I've become more comfortable with that knowledge since like not being in church.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it took a long time, and it was just little conversations here and there and
Mm.
little Google searches and seeing things online, and hearing other people's experiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did take a while.
Yeah. So for people who perhaps have not heard the term demisexual, and I think most people might be more familiar with asexual than demisexual,
Yeah.
what do both of those terms mean for you?
Yeah, asexuality is just not experiencing sexual attraction to other people.
Yep.
Doesn't matter about like gender or genitals or anything. It's just not feeling that. And then demisexuality is slightly different. It means that you don't experience sexual attraction to someone unless there has been a strong emotional bond formed,
Yeah.
which a lot of people would say, oh, so you're normal, or oh, you have standards, or these are the things demisexuals hear a lot.
Yeah.
But it's different, man. Like it, and the thing is, it's not that every person I've formed an emotional bond with, I've wanted to fuck.
Yeah.
Like it genuinely is like I can't know when that would happen.
Yeah.
And so far it's happened to me one time.
Yeah.
It's the person I'm married to. So which is good. But I think
Lucky.
yeah, that would be a bit of a problem. Or it wouldn't have to be a problem. But yeah, so that's kind of what demisexuality means, is
Yeah.
that you, and again, it's not assumedly heterosexual
Yeah.
when it happens.
And I know you are saying that for a particular reason, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, in terms of your own sexuality, like what was that like to explore and to realize and potentially, and I know that some people might not necessarily understand that you can have different types of attraction to different genders and things like that. And so what has
Yeah.
that been like for you?
Yeah, I think like I think the more you kind of hear other asexual people talking about the types of attraction they experience, there is quite a few types, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
one of the main ones is so sexual attraction and aesthetic attraction not being the same. So aesthetic attraction is just like enjoying the way someone looks, the way you would enjoy a beautiful sunset,
Yeah.
or the way you would look at a beautiful painting. And it's interesting because even though I didn't know about this language, when I was a bit younger, I would often describe my attraction to like celebrities this way. I'd be like, yeah, well, I don't actually want to kiss them or like have sex with them. I
Yeah.
just really like looking at them. They're
Yeah.
just very beautiful. And so I would describe myself as experiencing aesthetic attraction more so to women
Hmm.
than to men. Um, but I've only experienced sexual attraction to one
Person.
cis man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I guess the biggest thing, and I guess I'm asking this, and I want to get back to like the interconnection between what we've just been talking about in church, but I want to ask one question because every asexual person I've ever met always deals with the frustration of people going, yeah, but like, so are you just not having sex, right? And so, like, what is it like for you to deal with, I guess, the myths and the misconceptions about both asexuality and demisexuality?
I think I'm quite lucky in the fact that I'm not really out,
Yeah,
other than to all of my close friends.
yeah.
And even some of them, I've
And
had
everyone
one
about to listen to this podcast.
which is fine. I think like because I'm married,
Yeah,
I think I avoid these conversations because I'm not out. I think if people knew and knew I'm married, they might have questions.
mm,
And honestly, that's just not their business.
yeah,
Um, but mostly I've gotten away with it pretty well,
yeah.
um, to be honest. Can
Mm.
you repeat what you were asking? Sorry.
Yeah, it was just about how you navigate the myths and the misconceptions that people particularly have more so around asexuality and like And also around like, well, are you married to another asexual? Like, how do you navigate that in relationship if you are married to someone who is not an asexual, and all of those sorts of things that people usually have sometimes very um, considerate questions and other times
Mm.
not so considerate questions.
No, no. I mean, I do have sex.
Yeah,
But yeah, and it's because I do actually experience sexual attraction to
yeah,
my partner.
yeah,
It might have been different if I'd have fallen for someone and then not had that,
yeah,
but I really can't speak on that because I haven't experienced it.
yeah,
My partner isn't asexual, and I
mhm,
know that they wouldn't mind me saying that.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so honestly, I think we have a pretty standard relationship, and he's really great at embracing my
yeah,
sexuality, which is nice. I think like I was scared about talking with him about it,
yeah,
but he's been very good
yeah,
at understanding it. And we sometimes make jokes because sometimes the way that particularly demisexuals think is quite unique.
mm,
And he sometimes will make jokes about it, but I understand it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's in good faith.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
so I
think,
don't not myths or anything like that. It's more that I see things like that online and it gets me angry. The way other people who are asexual have to deal with that, more people who are more out than I am.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and potentially like navigating, the dating relationship scene of, all of that spectrum. And also just the way that, the queer community at large is represented online as well. But I think there are still particularly certain parts of the queer community that don't get the recognition and the conversation, and asexuality is in that group, in
Yeah.
terms of there is just not enough good information and good representation out there for people to understand as well. And for there to be constructive and helpful conversation around the A in the community.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, the asexuals and the bisexuals
Oh, yeah.
that we love each other because we're quite misunderstood. I
Yeah.
feel like I have a lot of bisexual friends,
Yeah.
which is quite nice. But yeah, I think there is community for
Yeah.
us, but I know what you mean. Asexuals can be quite, people often will go, well, you just want to be part of our group,
Yeah.
or you don't have sexuality, so why are you part of the queer community?
Yeah.
Which is just a bit of a misunderstanding of it,
Yes,
in
I
my
was going to
opinion.
say, yeah, it's just a lot of people who are being misunderstood. And I think, yeah, you're right. I think, the amount of times that I heard growing up, or, you're just like, you're just confused, or you're just like waiting to come out as a lesbian or something like that. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is exhausting. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's just a lot of misunderstandings and being, like other people just not having the ability to sort of like expand their perception and things like that. So, okay, what was all of exploring all of this like? Were you still in the church? Were you out of the church? And if you were out, how did we get out?
I was in.
Okay.
So I was living with my family until I turned 19.
Mm,
So it was sort of within the year that I moved. Like before I moved, I realized,
yeah.
but then definitely after I moved, I explored it further.
Yeah.
So yeah, I lived with my family and again was going to church that whole time that I
Mm,
was living with them. And then I continued to go to church for like another 6 years
yep.
after that. So I did realize while I was still going to church.
Yeah.
Um, and I just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think like I got into a relationship with my partner quite fast
Okay.
after I moved. So like we've been together for 10 years and we got together the year that I moved.
Hmm.
So there wasn't a lot of time for
Yeah.
me to have really explored it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I realized like the year before I was with him.
Yeah.
Um,
How did, I
Yeah.
guess, all of the like the purity culture messaging and all of the conversation and like internal narrative around your sexuality, how did all of that impact how you viewed the God that you had been taught up until that point? Like, how did it impact that relationship, not necessarily human to human relationships?
So, well, in terms of asexuality,
Yeah, and just I guess all of the external messaging around your identity. I think, up until this point, I imagine the messaging would have been that your identity is in Christ and your identity is in God and all of that sort of language. And so potentially finding out that there are other aspects to your identity that might feel conflicting to what you had been taught. How did that impact, I guess, the faith relationship that you had up until that point?
um, it's a complex question.
Yeah.
Um, I think I just didn't really give it the time of day,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think, again, it was still that feeling of when I was younger, of just knowing my purpose as a woman is to be married to a man and to be a wife.
Yeah.
And I was still very much in that mindset
Mm.
for a very long time. And so I think it kind of became, it doesn't matter what I feel.
Yeah.
I just have this role I need to play. And to be honest with you, like in the early like stages of my relationship with my partner, my knowledge of what I was supposed to be almost ruined our relationship because he didn't hold those ideals at
Okay.
all. And eventually, like, I had to realize that not all men want that.
Yeah.
And like, not all men want a sex slave,
Yeah.
essentially, to be honest with you. And I think that took me years to kind of actually understand. And so I think that knowledge of him not expecting that of me and him actually loving me
Mm.
has allowed me to embrace
Yeah.
my sexuality.
Yeah.
So, in terms of how I felt with God, I guess I just trusted God at the time to bring me through it
Yeah.
and to bring me a partner that would be gentle,
Yeah.
I guess. But to be honest, I was just caught up in church life more than I just sort of didn't try to think about it. I know that's not very interesting, but
No, because I guess it sometimes falls into that perspective that I think a lot of people like don't necessarily always understand in that like at some point it can just become because I know that there is okay, like this is where my brain is going in about four different directions.
yeah,
But like there is this assumption, like there's that sort of like really gross phrase that it's like it's not religion, it's relationship.
yeah, yeah,
But at some point, if you have such a crazy, hectic church life, it becomes more of a role that you play than a relationship that you have.
yeah,
Particularly, I find if you are there, and this does become a big factor, particularly in like big Pentecostal churches where there's heavy like volunteer burnout rates and spiritual burnout in general and things like that, where the role you play in the church matters and the image that you have in that church almost matters more than the relationship that you have with the divine.
yeah. Yeah, I was definitely like a big like server
Yeah.
in church. Like I was part of we called it the hospitality team. I don't know what most churches call it. So like welcoming people,
Mhm.
helping them to like seats,
Yeah.
like talking to new people, that kind of thing. And I would do that as well for like our conferences that we'd hold.
Yeah.
And then I also was on the worship team.
Yeah.
So I would serve like 3 out of 4 weeks of a month, pretty
Yeah.
much. I would be on one team. And so then I had worship practice at night, once a week. Yeah, like I definitely have experienced that kind of feeling of you have a role in church. But
Yeah.
I'll be so real with you. I've always thought I did that because it was duty
Yeah.
or more for like social cred.
Yep.
Sorry, that's a really old person thing to say. not that that's bad. I just mean like I just think I wanted to be looked upon as doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought the more that I serve, the more teams I'm part of, the more gregarious and like love bomby I can be to people. I think I thought that I would be seen as a better Christian
Yeah.
because I think deep
Good
down I
Christian
knew,
girl image.
oh yeah, I was a big like good Christian girl, but I kind of wasn't. I
Yeah.
wasn't very good at it. I would always ask questions that people didn't want to
Yeah.
answer. I always had doubts, and I was a bit of a pain in the bum in my like small group.
Yeah.
Bit
Yeah.
of a shit stirrer. But yeah, I think I know what you mean. It's you get sort of caught up in this role.
Yeah. I mean, even asking all of the questions that you shouldn't be asking, it still is you're still paying attention, right? You are
Mm,
still almost like playing that role of you're not just like passively existing in that space. You are active, you are
mm,
and so when did those questions, because that's very similar to, I guess, the image that I remember of myself, which is that I played the role very, very well.
mm.
But I also still ask the wrong questions at times.
Yeah.
But then at some point, those questions were the questions that started to unravel and lead me out. And so, what was that like for you as you were sort of like transitioning out? Was it quick or was it a very slow fade out?
Slow.
Yeah.
Very slow. I think so like me leaving my parents' church when I was 15 and going into the Pentecostal church was because of fundamental disagreement about free will.
Right.
And so my parents were like predestination, all
Mm.
of that stuff. And I was like, well, why would a loving God not give us choice?
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest first question I had. And my parents weren't happy with me leaving based on that
Yeah.
discussion. But again, and I got to give them credit, they let me go.
Mm.
They were like, at least you're still going to church, kind of thing. And so, yeah, that was the first big one. But then I would say it just kind of progressed over the years. Um, Admittedly, when I was a younger teenager, I was more interested in my friends
Mm.
and having fun.
Yeah.
But I think like when I moved out of home and went to a church of my own fruition, that was when I started having more questions.
Mm.
I definitely had big debates with people in my church about homosexuality,
Yeah.
because I'd come round
Mm.
to affirming and being like, this is wrong and cruel that we aren't affirming people. And I ended up like leaving the worship team eventually because I was like, I don't feel like this is my place anymore. And I want to be like, at the time, I was saying I want to be in more pastoral roles or like
Mhm.
just caring for people, communing with people. Um, which, yeah, I'm sure as a counselor, you can kind of understand that
Yeah.
pull to people. Yeah, so I definitely had those questions. I had a lot of questions um, just throughout the years
Mm.
that people just didn't like
Yeah.
me asking. I did have questions about like women speaking in church because I was
Mhm.
brought up that that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
But then in the church that I went to as a young adult, they did do that. They had female pastors, which was really cool.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, just had different questions throughout the years.
Yeah. What was the I guess the final straw or the thing that broke the shelf where you were like, yeah, I'm not going back?
I don't know that that was one, to be honest with you, but I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me when I think of like, why wouldn't I go back?
Mm.
And I think that it's quite a simple thing. And I know that I'm not alone in this feeling of if God can do anything, why would he allow this much suffering?
Yeah.
Um, Especially if he's a loving God
Yeah.
and a father,
Mm.
and why would he hide himself so much from people? Like that whole thing of, oh, well, depending on where you are in the world, you're exposed to Christianity or you're not, maybe.
Yeah.
And how is that fair to those people that are never exposed to it? Are they just going to hell out of default?
Yeah.
So those sort of things, the issue of suffering, I think, is still the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
But there's definitely other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The limit does not exist, as per
No.
Mean Girls,
Yeah.
Mean Girls reference. What were like leaving church, I feel like is one of those things where everybody has a really different experience, but usually it comes at a cost. People ask questions like, why are you not here? Are you not coming? Like, potentially, some people like lose friendships or lose relationships with people. And so, was that a fairly smooth process or was it pretty rocky?
I guess I haven't formally left.
Right.
So I haven't gone to church since 2020,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people, but it wasn't for that reason.
Yeah.
So it started, honestly, I actually left because of a medical condition.
Mm.
I had a concussion in 2018 and I have chronic migraines. And so I actually ended up not being able to be in church because it was too loud, too
Oh,
bright,
yeah.
and too overwhelming. And so actually I ended up pulling out of some of the serving things I was doing because I was like, I'm really sorry, guys. Like, I actually just can't deal with being here.
Yeah.
And so I'd still go to like some of the smaller things, like I'd go and help at youth group and things like that.
Yeah.
But I did sort of slowly fade out
Yeah.
because of that. And so the last time I actually like went to church
Mm.
was like in 2019.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went sporadically throughout 2020, just every so often. I was going to a different church
Yeah.
because I thought, oh, this is a bit more low key. And it was less people and things like that because I was in quite a large church before. Um, but then eventually I wasn't making any friends and I just was disagreeing with more and more stuff and was feeling more and more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess I never had the convo with people of like, I don't believe this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. And I only came to actually sitting and acknowledging that I don't believe it 2 years ago.
Okay.
And like no one knows.
Well, now my listeners know, but we're all with you. It's
Yeah.
okay.
No, I know
Oh,
that's fine. Like my close friends know.
yeah.
I talk like at length about my problems with them sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like yeah, my parents don't know,
Yeah.
my in-laws don't know, and that kind of thing. And so, as far as everyone knows, I still am a Christian,
Mm.
but I guess I am a little bit vocal about things sometimes
Okay.
that I disagree with. But I'm
Yeah.
honestly just scared. I'm scared of losing everyone.
Yeah.
Especially like parents and in-laws is really hard to think about losing, and like siblings.
Yeah.
But I did lose people definitely. Like as I left,
Yeah.
there was people that I thought would reach out that didn't.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that people would say, "Oh, we're really missing seeing you on Sundays," like, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I was really bitter about that, to be honest, because I was like, I've been serving here for years and years, every week,
Mm.
and no one asked where I was, which I recognize is selfish, I guess, but I just thought I had more community than I did.
Yeah.
So that was quite hard.
Yeah, it's the realization, I think that, and it doesn't have to be all relationships, but that some of those relationships were conditional or transactional, and that, we love you whilst ever you stay in this box, or at least while ever you stay in this church, and things like that. And it's that really sad realization that the relationship didn't move beyond that, that it didn't have enough weight or attachment to it to move beyond those four walls, which is a really sad realization, whether it's one relationship or all relationships. So,
Yeah. Like the people that I am still friends with from then are
mm,
all people that have left too.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'm thankful that I'm still
I mean,
friends with
that's
them.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Little
grew together.
deconstruction perk. Um,
Yeah.
what was it like for you to let go of some of those beliefs, like or the beliefs that you were raised with, and start to realize, actually, I don't believe any of this. And potentially to either work out what you do believe or that you're okay with not knowing even.
Mm. There's still things I don't know, and
Yeah.
I'm very happy to admit it. But it was fucking scary.
Yeah.
Um, I think for a long time when I was deconstructing, I was actively deconstructing. I was seeking out answers
Yeah.
and I was listening to, people from different faiths. And for a long time, I was sort of thinking, oh, maybe I'll become a Quaker
Yeah.
instead of a Christian because they just seemed so much more open.
Mm.
And I still respect them actually quite a lot. But I think for a long time, I was like holding on to it for dear life.
Yeah.
Um, because I was like, I don't want to have to have this convo. I
Yeah.
don't want to have to reinvent myself
Mm.
and let go of this part of my identity because it's literally all I've known.
Yeah.
And how can I, and now I don't think this way, but I think it was kind of, where's my morality if it doesn't come from God?
Yeah.
Which seems very silly now that I think about it.
But it's
But
very real at the time.
yeah, it is very real. And
Yeah.
I had to go through the thoughts of, well, if I don't believe, am I still going to heaven?
Yeah.
Is heaven real?
Yeah.
um, and because my family believe in like predestination
Yeah.
and like once you're saved, you're always saved.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, by
You're
that
good.
logic, I'm good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Um, well, I don't believe that. um, but I think, yeah, that was one of the scary things was kind
Mm.
of thinking, okay, what do I think of the afterlife?
Yeah.
Do I think there is one? Those were some of the harder things, I think, for me. And more honestly, just being afraid of letting people down
Yeah.
and being viewed as a heathen, being viewed as dirty,
Yeah.
and I think especially like, being queer,
Mm.
being tattooed,
Yeah.
being plus sized, you're gonna have people have all these opinions of you already.
Yeah.
And then adding on, also,
Also, I'm a
um,
raging heretic.
yeah, raging heretic, exactly. And I guess it is really scary to like,
Yeah.
I want to have those conversations with my parents and stuff
Mm.
because I love them and they actually deserve the truth.
Yeah.
But it's really, really scary.
Yeah, I mean, I am wondering what that is like for you because I sit here and I say this quite often, which is that I am incredibly privileged that I grew up and I still have a very secular family, and that was not
Um,
something that I had to navigate. Um, but I am curious what it is like for you and what it has been like, the last 12, 18 months or so, feeling like you cannot be your real self,
mm,
with the closest family, like your immediate family almost. What is that like for you?
it's really hard
Yeah.
because despite disagreeing with, well, not really disagreeing, I guess, like they're entitled to believe that stuff, but
Yeah.
having that disconnect
Mm.
is quite hard. And I'm not like my parents very much.
Yeah.
I'm quite different anyway. And so it's kind of nice to have things in common.
Yeah.
And it is really hard. Like I feel like I have to just lie
Yeah.
or that I have to like walk on eggshells and try not to say something that like out me
Yeah.
as not believing. And I can't do
Faith
it forever.
masking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think that it's really hard. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
like,
like masking in general is exhausting. Like we talk about it in terms of queerness and neurodivergence and all sorts of different spaces, but like that sort of level is it takes energy, and I think people who have never had to do that don't necessarily realize what it is like to suppress or shut off parts of yourself with those that you should be able to be yourself with.
Yeah, like we live with my in-laws at the moment because we're having a house built.
Yeah.
And like they are pastors.
Yeah, right.
And so yeah, I mask every day
Yeah.
when they're around. And that's really hard. And they're very into it. Like
Yeah.
they breathe it, you know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
love it. And it's really hard to, like have them say, oh, well, when you pray about XYZ. And I'm like, it ain't happening, Chief.
Yeah. I mean, and also like I'm just thinking like what is it like for you to be surrounded by that all the time? Because like I'd hate that. Like just like very bluntly, but
Yeah.
like what is it like for you? Like you are living and breathing that even though you are not choosing it.
Um, yeah, it's still fun. It's not fun. Again, I respect their right to be in it and
Yeah.
to believe it, and I love that they have their community that they like. That's so everyone wants more community in their life,
Yeah.
and so I can't begrudge them that. I try to think of it out of compassion,
Mm.
um, but it's hard. I
Yeah.
won't lie to you, and I feel like some things that they believe are harming others,
Yeah.
and that is the hardest thing because I am very pragmatic.
Yeah.
I really don't like knowing that other people are being taught things that I know might harm them in the future.
Yeah.
Can't say for certain, but
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that
Absolutely.
that's the hardest thing really. And I don't like lying to them because I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even just that nuance is really hard of just like knowing that people that we love are also doing things that are potentially really harmful, identity-based harm as well. And that nuance is just like real, that's hard to hold within our system as well.
Yeah, and even with themselves, like my parents included, like I think I just sometimes they have problems that I think you don't need to have these problems.
Yeah,
Like you're giving yourself anxieties or shame around things that is not a problem. And I
yeah,
want more freedom for them
yeah,
because I love them and I want them to have less stress. Like they have all of these things they're dealing with because of the community that they care for.
yeah,
And I just wish some of those things are like just general life stuff is hard, but
mm,
some of those things could be eradicated if they didn't believe certain things,
yeah.
especially identity wise. And that is quite hard.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say I love the phrase like I want more freedom for them. I think that
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And also just shows it's not about trying people can have immense freedom with faith as well, but
Mm.
some forms of faith are really constrictive, and there are more expansive other forms of faith. And so I love that you're putting it as I don't want to change their beliefs, but I want them to experience more freedom. And I
Yeah.
think that that's beautiful.
Yeah. Because again, just because I don't believe it, just because
Yeah.
I may think some of it is harmful, just from a psychological
Yeah.
perspective, I can't negate the good that they get from it.
Yeah.
That is still like a net positive for them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I just wish that they had less stress and more freedom
Yeah.
and could be loved better and
Yeah.
also love others better.
Yeah. Where do you land on spirituality now?
I guess I identify as agnostic
Yeah.
slash atheist.
Yep.
I don't I feel like we can't know if there is a or isn't any God. So
Yeah.
I guess atheist feels a bit like solid.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I I don't know if I would want to believe
Yeah.
if there was one.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of where I land on it.
Yeah.
But I think I do, I guess I'm sort of interested in, I don't know if this is really spirituality, but I do really love the thought of us being part of nature
Yeah.
and nature being us.
Oh, I think
in
if
that
you
whole
listen to every other podcast I've ever done with people, I think everybody will agree with you that nature is inherently spiritual.
thing.
I think also it's why I ask people what their relationship with is like what their relationship with spirituality is, because it's less about there being a divine being like faith is. It's less about organized religion or there being a holy text or something like that. And spirituality is just about connection to
Mm.
ourselves, to the world, to nature, to others. And so I think everybody who has ever been on this podcast will agree with you that nature is inherently spiritual. And I often joke that the church is concerned about the wrong things, that they're worried about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and they should be worried about nature.
Yeah.
Because it'll lead far more people out of the church than like drugs ever will. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. No, I guess I particularly like, I don't know if I should go into it, but especially since kind of forming more thoughts about the afterlife and
yeah,
my place in life, I
yeah,
guess I have more respect for nature and being a little part of the incredible universe,
yeah,
to sound real hippie. Um, yeah, like I don't, I think I just find that really interesting
yeah,
as a thought to explore and very beautiful,
yeah.
as opposed to governing
Mm,
nature, being part of it. I
yeah,
think I just want to explore that idea more.
yeah.
So
I
maybe
love
that's spirituality, and maybe it's because of my love of
that.
science as well. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's beautiful. And also like embrace the hippie. I love that. So,
yeah,
um okay, I love ending these and I know that you have listened to the episodes before, so I know that you probably know what question is coming. But I love ending these episodes with some encouragement for people who are potentially navigating this in real time and potentially even quite early on in their experience. And so, what would you say to someone who is fresh in their deconstruction?
I would say be authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't go as far as you feel like you need to go,
Mm.
and know that you are not alone. As I guess cheesy as that sounds, you're definitely not alone.
Yeah.
And even if everyone around you rejects you,
Mm.
hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But there is still people that will love you, and to even find one person in your life who you can at least talk to about it, even if they don't understand it.
Yeah.
Talk about, even if it's a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist or someone who can make space for you. I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
And yeah, be authentic to yourself. Yeah, I think that's what I would have to say.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I think, community and having people is so important. So I love that you raised that. I think it's
Yeah,
so important. Um, Thank you for joining me, Grace.
no worries.
It has been beautiful. And also thank you for sharing so openly about things that, only a very small subsect of people know. And so I appreciate you being so open and vulnerable about so much of your story.
It's all good. Thank you for listening to me. I hope it was interesting.
It was beautiful. Everybody's story is important. That's the point of the podcast.
Yeah,
Is that everybody's story matters, and so I'm always just appreciative of people who are willing to sit and just chat for a bit about this thing we call life and the good stuff and the batshit crazy stuff as well.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Surface. I hope you found today's conversation as insightful and inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit from these stories. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and more content. I love connecting with all of you. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you're not alone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep moving forward. Take care.